Did you hear the question? Okay, let me repeat it. He said that I failed to say much about the area of hermeneutics, and the challenge of hermeneutics, that is principles of interpretation, need to be thought through when dealing with many, many topics, whether from a category of biblical theology or systematic theology. For example, he says, what do you do with Israel? What contribution does biblical theology make toward our understanding of the place of Israel in the whole history of the Bible? Is it biblical theology? Is it systematic theology? Is it something else? How do you put that together? So that there are some Christians today who think that the current state of Israel is the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies, and there are other people, like John Stott he mentioned, who think that such matters belong to the general sweep of matters indifferent, and that the ultimate fulfillment of Israel of the Old Testament is the Israel of God, the people of God, of the New Covenant. So what do I have to say to help resolve those sorts of questions? Is that a fair representation of your question? Yes. Now, for the purpose of the topic of this lecture, it's important, I think, to see that how you understand Israel turns not only on how you understand some proof texts, but how you understand Israel as a theme running through Scripture. In other words, the issue is not simply how you can align a whole lot of text in an atemporal sense, that's the category of systematic theology, and come out with a conclusion that you find convincing. If there is any way ahead to help Christians come to a common mind about matters like that over which they disagree, then it becomes very important to look at every one of those texts in its own context, in its own biblical book, but then to see how it fits into the stream of redemptive history, the unfolding of biblical theological truth, to see the direction in which things are moving, the direction in which they're going. Because if you do not see such direction matters, you may pick up a piece that describes Israel. God crying, for example, in the Psalms, through the psalmist, in effect, oh Jerusalem, how can I ever forget you? It's like cutting off my hand, or something like that. Is that ultimately talking about Jerusalem below, or not? Now, a certain kind of hermeneutic says, yes, but in the context, that's what was understood, and you take the literal meaning first, and all these hermeneutical choices. But if you then ask, yes, but how does the theme of Jerusalem, of Zion, of Israelites move through the Old Testament all the way to the New Testament, so that ultimately you have Paul in Galatians 6 wrestling with, our home is not really Jerusalem below, it's Jerusalem that is above. The new heaven and the new earth is ultimately also pictured as the new Jerusalem. Well, what do you do with it? How do they fit together? So I don't think that biblical theology automatically answers all questions for you. I do think that the discipline of biblical theology added to the discipline of systematic theology, and bringing them to bear with rigorous exegesis and the nature of typology and that sort of thing, is much more likely to bring you to a stable, biblically theological conclusion than if you approach those sorts of questions with only one discipline at your disposal, as if all such questions are merely addressed by a kind of selection of proof texts. I think that biblical theology will help you become a lot more accurate in that sort of domain.